Hey and welcome back to my channel. My name is Esther and I basically post videos about whatever's going on in my life at the moment. And I figured today I'm gonna talk about living abroad. So a little bit of background about me. I am originally from the Netherlands. I basically lived there from when I was born up till 17, like full-time, like pretty much in the same town my whole life. And then when I was 17, I went to the UK as an au pair, where I was there for the summer, so 2 months. It was kind of an arrangement where it was like, oh, you can stay for 1 month or you can stay for 5, we'll just see how it goes. But it was very remote and I didn't drive and there was not really anyone around. There was a small town that I could bike to, but it was a half-an-hour bike ride. And it was just one street of shops, and that was it. So, and the kids were gonna go back to school after summer, so I was like, I'm just gonna be sitting here at home by myself doing nothing all day. So I decided to leave after the summer holidays. So I was there for, I can do a separate video about this whole experience, but I was there for 2 months. It was an okay experience, but it was full on. Like, the mom had breast cancer and it was a lot. So I was there for 2 months. While I was there, I had already applied for uni in Australia. So I was going to study social work in Australia, in Townsville. That was also a whole thing. I was originally going to go to Perth, and then they changed the program. I had to last minute change universities, and it was very complicated and very stressful. But I ended up going to Townsville. So I was in the UK probably from maybe June till August, September. And then I moved to Townsville I think I left in February. I went to Townsville in February 2011. So I studied social work there. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know anyone in Australia. There was a whole thing. This is another thing I can probably do a separate video about, but I ended up going to Cairns, staying with a Dutch family for like a couple of weeks, and then their daughter also went to the same university. So we both went, and I lived with her for a little bit and her boyfriend. So I ended up living in the share house over there with 5 other students. They were all first year uni students. None of them actually were from Townsville, so it was really nice to kind of, have that group together. But pretty quickly, like maybe 1 semester in, I was kind of like, I don't know if this is really what I want to do, with social work, I mean. So I decided to finish up the year and then drop out. Then moved back home in December of 2011. And then while I was there, I applied for an au pair program in the US. So I got in, I found a family, but they didn't need me until October of 2012. So I just worked at home, lived with my mom, just worked full-time at McDonald's. And then after that, moved to the US, and I was there for like 1 year and 9 months, about that, which was great. Like, I lived with this family in San Francisco. It was a great experience, great family, and I had a really good time, but I started to miss Australia. So, sorry, there's a bird outside screaming. So basically, when I was going to Australia originally, I was kind of in between the US or Australia. I wasn't really sure, so I went to Australia. Then when that didn't work out, I was like, well, maybe I'll see if I can go to the US for a while, and then I can sort of decide. I did look at some unis in the US as well, so I was like, well, I'm in San Francisco now, so if I'm going to stay, I want to either stay here, which I did look into, or I went on a trip to Hawaii, and I was like, well, why not have a look at the university here, which I also did. But then I was like, well, it's really like just Hawaii in general, like it's really small. I was like, do I want to be here for 4 years? Like, it's like a small island. So I was like, I don't know. So I decided not to do that, and then it was just like financially it made more sense as well to go to Australia. But also when I was in the US, I just missed Australia. I missed Australia more than I missed the Netherlands. So while I was there, I kind of looked into my options, and I found a nursing and midwifery program. And I always wanted to be a midwife, but basically in high school they told me I couldn't do that, which was bullshit. Basically I could, I just had to do like some different extra courses and stuff. But because by the time I was going to go to Australia, I had done some extra courses and stuff while I was in the US. I did like a biology course, and I had done psychology when I was doing social work. So I was able to get into that. So I applied for lots. I think I emailed 20 universities in Australia. It was very weird because they would accept international students for nursing, but very few would accept international students for midwifery. There were only two got back to me. So I got into Monash in Melbourne first, and then I got into the University of Queensland in Brisbane, which is where I ended up going to. And then basically came back from San Francisco in July 2014, and then I moved to Australia in January of 2015. So I had been home in like that between time, but I don't really feel like I was there, but like I was already kind of in my mind at the next place. So yeah, moved here in 2015, and I have been here ever since. So 8.5 years now. And I think there are some things that, I don't know, it's just interesting to think about, especially now I'm getting older and I have just been home to see my family, which I hadn't seen them for like maybe 3 years. Yeah, 3 years because of COVID. So in total, I think I've been back in those 8.5 years, I've been back 3 or 4 times. My mom has been here twice, my dad has been here once. And yeah, so, you know, obviously Australia is far, like it's almost the furthest you can go. So it takes a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort to try and go and see people. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about, you know, now I'm older, so I'm 30 now. Originally when I went to the UK, I was 17. But also I knew that was short term, like, and then when I went to Australia, that was never really meant to be a short term thing. I was intending to stay. Which I'll talk about another video about visas, because that is, whoa, a lot. I've been, I think, on like 4 different visas just in the last 8.5 years. Went home for 2 weeks in May this year. Which was great. Like, it was great to like see my family. It's just very weird because the time before that when I went home, both my grandmas were still alive, so like we go and see them. And then also like family stuff was usually more like, you know, we go to my grandma's house for like a birthday or something, and then all the aunts and uncles would be there. But it's not really, we don't really necessarily go and see my aunts and uncles, you know. I mean, I could have, but like I didn't. But like, you know, then you would kind of see everyone, and that kind of fell away now because that's kind of gone because my grandma is not there. On both sides, they're not there. Both my grandpas already passed away. Like my grandpa on my mom's side passed away when I was in high school, and all my other grandparents passed away when I was in Brisbane. And I haven't been to any of the funerals. The last 2, like my grandma's, I had to do online, so that was a thing, like, because they died 10 days, yeah, about 10 days from each other, and it was COVID, so I couldn't leave the country, so I had to basically do that online, which was really weird. But now I guess because I'm also now at an age, like a lot of stuff is changing, like it is, so basically back home a lot of stuff is changing, so my yeah, so all my grandparents have passed away, so it's just like little things like, oh, I'm never gonna go and see my grandparents' house again. Like, especially on my dad's side, like they had lived in the same house for like forever. She was in a nursing home when she passed away, but like even like before that, like my family all went and like packed up the whole house, went through all the stuff, and that's like the kind of the things that you kind of miss out on then, because you don't really get to say goodbye. I don't know, so that was a couple of years ago, like on my, well, both sides, I guess. But like, yeah, so it's just like stuff like that. Then when my grandpa died, like they all go through all the stuff, and like my sisters have all this furniture from my grandparents, and I have like nothing. I have like 2 paintings that I have a painting of each that they did while they were in the nursing home, but I don't, and I have some jewelry for my grandma, but I don't really have anything, you know, from their house or, you know, really to remember them by. So, I think that is a thing that you don't really think about, like when you're young and you're moving overseas. It's just like, obviously you have your life here, but they also have their life there. So it's like when you come back, it's really weird because it's not the same, but you're also not the same and they're also not the same. I think that was one of the things, like, and then both my grandmas died. So both of my families, both sides of the family, they were like going through all the stuff, all the furniture. And then that is hard, like not to be there for that. Like obviously you want to be there like with your grandparents, but it's just like hard, you don't get to say goodbye to all of those things. Like when I was little, I was in my grandparents' house like all the time. And I didn't think I was gonna cry, but here we go. Like when I was little, I was at my grandparents' house all the time, and then it's really hard not to be able to like say goodbye to like a house. Like before I left, like I was still there all the time. They still lived at like their original house, and then one year you come back and they moved out and other people live there, and you can't like. Oh, okay. But yeah, so that is one of the hard things, I guess. And just, you know, being here by myself, especially during COVID, like I think everyone can agree that was a pretty crappy time for most people. But then to have to watch 2 funerals within a 2 weeks time, like pretty much within like a 2-week time span, by yourself without really anyone there, because you couldn't really have people over at that time either, so you're just sitting there by yourself at home. That was hard. I went home like 2 weeks ago, and it's just like stuff is so different. Like my youngest sister is married now. I couldn't be at the wedding. Like just the major things that you just miss out on. Like you know, she's been with her now husband for like 10 years, but I don't really know him that well because I've been gone for most of it. And then my other sister has been with her partner for like 5 years. I've only met him like, well, I met him the last time I was there, but I met him the time before that, so I've only met him like twice. And it's just like stuff like that, and then like family members starting their own families, that we want to start our own family as well, and it's kind of hard to think about knowing that my kids won't have the relationship with my parents that I had with my grandparents. Like my grandparents on my dad's side lived like 2 blocks away pretty much my whole life. So I was there all the time. If my parents were working and I was sick from school, I would stay at my grandma's house and like she would look after me and stuff. So I think that is hard. Obviously you have like Skype and video calling and all of that, and that is great, but it's not the same. And it is hard also, I guess, in a way. Like I honestly, I don't think I ever would want to live back in the Netherlands. But the only reason I go back is because of my family. So it would be nice if it was closer, which unfortunately it isn't. But like, you know, even thinking about like once I have my own kids, I can't just like pack up and leave and take my kids because my partner is here and his family. It's always gonna kind of be a struggle, I guess. I mean, I think it's worth it. Like I love living here. I have a great life here, but you know, it's not all easy and fun and great all the time. And then, you know, friendships, like I had friends in high school that I had one friend in high school that I was friends with from first grade all the way through high school. And then I moved overseas, and then it just kind of dropped down. Like I tried to keep in touch, but like we never hear from them. And it's just like, it's sometimes hard to let go, but then it's also like it needs to be a two-way street, you know? You can't just like try and force someone to be friends with you. And the same thing with another friend from like high school. Even if I was going home, I had to really like, I would give them like 3 months notice of when I would be there, and then like a week before it's like, oh sorry, I don't know if I'll have time because I might have to work. And it's just like people, like I guess in that way it's a good thing because you kind of get to see who your actual friends are. And now not having properly lived there for, I don't know, like 13 years, there's just not really anything there for me to go back to. Like if I would ever move back, I mean I have one friend there, but I met her here in Australia, so I haven't even met her there. And then it's just my family, but like I don't really have like friends or anything there anymore. Yeah, I think living abroad like really kind of teaches you, like shows you who your real friends are, and it's just hard. It's in a way it's easy to make friends when you're moving like overseas, because there are so many Facebook groups of people that moved overseas as well, especially as an au pair. It's so easy to find like other au pairs and just like hang out. But it is really hard to find like friendships that are more deep, like that are deeper and that are more long term, which I do have with some of those here now, so I'm really happy about that. But yeah, I don't have that back home, and it's really great. Like it's just like my partner, all his friends are friends he's had since high school, and then sometimes I'm like, well, I wish I had that, but then I'm also like, well, I tried to have that and apparently they don't want that, so it's okay. And I guess in the end it doesn't really matter how long you've been friends with someone. It's more like, you know, if you're on the same level, if you want the same, like, you know, if you have the same interests and you're compatible in that way, I guess. But yeah, so I think, yeah, just also, I'm sorry, I'm really rambling. Like my brain is like, I did not prepare this video really. Yeah, but yeah, I guess just like having my own kids in the future and just having my family so far away. And then it's really hard. I was talking to my mom about this. Just also the fact that because I am the one that moved away, people expect me to be the one that come and see them. But very few people actually make the effort to come and see me. Which I understand that it's expensive, that it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of money, but it seems sometimes like they would only come, like if I would get married or something, then they would come. But I'm like, why would it have to take that for you to come and see me? You know what I'm saying? That is hard sometimes. Like I've been back 3 or 4 times. And then like my mom's been here a few times. My dad has been here. My dad is also sick, so that makes it also harder for him to like come over. But just like stuff like that. And then I'm like, well, I was talking to my mom, and my mom was like, yeah, that's just kind of how it is. My mom moved away like an hour from her family when she was younger. And she was like, yeah, it was the same thing. Like they would never come and see me unless I specifically asked them to. And she would go to all their birthdays, but then they wouldn't come to hers and stuff like that. She's like, yeah, that's just how it is. And I'm like, well, but it shouldn't be. Like it should be more of like a two-way street. And of course I'm not going to expect people to come and visit me every year, but I've been here 8.5 years, you know, and I know some people are able to afford it. So I'm like, that is hard sometimes. So I'm hoping that if we do have kids, that maybe they will come and visit, but then also they probably have kids, so then that makes it even harder. Because the other thing is that I was saying to my mom that is hard is the fact that if I'm going to see them every other year, that means that we cannot do any other big international trips because it is so expensive. My partner has family in Canada, he has family in the Philippines, and we can't do like Canada and then do the Netherlands the next year. That doesn't work. And I'm like, well, so then the only thing that I could do is go home every 4 years instead of every other year. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to figure out how to deal with all of that. But yeah, just stuff like that is hard, and you're just not there for like the little things. And now my mom is moving as well. So my mom has been living in the same house for 20 years. So my parents got divorced when I was 9, and we lived in that house since then. So I was there like in May, and now the next time I'm gonna go back home, that's gonna be gone too. It's just weird because I'm like my partner hasn't been yet, so he hasn't met my family, and it's weird because it's almost like I had this whole life before him, and now I won't be able to show that to him because my grandparents are gone. Their houses we can't go and see anymore because other people live there. My mom is moving away, so he can't really see my childhood home, where I lived most of my life. It's just very strange. It's just really weird. I don't really know what I was trying to do with this whole tangent, to be honest. I definitely didn't think I would be crying, but there we were. Yeah, I'm gonna end this video now because I've been talking for like half an hour, and I don't think it needs to be a half-an-hour video. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to share a little bit about, I guess, the downside or the other side of living abroad. Like, it is not all like fun and games and meeting new people and traveling, and you know, I'm also just living here. Like, we're also paying a mortgage and paying bills and working full-time jobs. Like, it's not like a holiday. I think a lot of people think that, you know, if you move overseas or you go and live abroad, I mean, of course, sometimes in some certain circumstances it is like that, but it's not like a big holiday. Like, your life is not a holiday. Like, it is still your life, and you still have to do like the normal everyday things that everyone does back home as well. But yeah, there are some challenges, and I think for me right now it's worth it. I know for some people it might not be. It's okay to not always be happy, I guess, about being away from people and being overseas. And you know, I love my life, but sometimes it is also hard to be away from people. So I think I'm gonna stop talking because I just keep on rambling and rambling. But if you also live abroad and away from family, and you want to share your experiences down in the comments, that would be great. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.